that the United Nations was founded in October of 1945, just after the end of the Second World War. The League of Nations was established as part of the Treaty of Versailles after the First World War, at the behest of Woodrow Wilson, the US President. The goal was to act as an international organization capable of being a peaceful mediator between potential disputes to prevent wars on the scale of the First World War from ever happening again. However, as we can tell from a cursory look at history, this did not succeed, largely due to it lacking a real structure of response for crises, relying on its members to supply their own militaries when required as opposed to having its own designated forces, and the United States never joining, despite organizing it in the first place due to the Senate voting for isolationism as a policy. This last fact is perhaps the most important for understanding why it would never have been able to succeed. If the very founder couldn't be bothered to join it, then what was the point for anyone else to? It basically had no weight or legitimacy. As a result, it proved entirely incapable of preventing the outbreak of the Second World War, after Germany, Italy, and Japan left the League of Nations with little to no consequences. It existed through the war but had very limited operations, and its headquarters at the Palace of Nations, where the UN is partly based today, remained unoccupied for years. In 1942, at the Tehran Conference, the Allies agreed on creating a new body to replace the League of Nations in order to truly carry on its mission. Following the victories in both Europe and Asia by the Allied powers, the United Nations was formed in 1945, but a lot of work would be required to make it into what it is today. The League of Nations wouldn't technically be dissolved until the 18th of April of 1946, but most of its institutions would be incorporated into the United Nations before then, with the final transfer of assets occurring at the last meeting, when it was liquidated. Since 1946, much has happened for the development of the UN. Its peacekeeping operations it's known for were pioneered by the famous Canadian Lester B. Pearson during the Suez Crisis in 1956. Canada has been a consistent participator in these peacekeeping operations, recently scaling back its larger involvement in exchange for more specialized roles. The United Nations today serves as a true voice for all peoples, all countries of this world, no matter how small, and it continues to work towards the preservation of peace for all. Thank you very much for listening to this month's episode of Did You Know? Don't forget to tune in to Raising the Bar with Tanzim tomorrow.